Hello. Hello.
We'll start by
Hi
6:05.
Mahesh. Hey, hi Mahesh. Yeah, Ranjit here. Hello.
Ranjit, can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah. So just one question I am asking. Before meeting, just your Angular 2 you are routing you are you will explain or is Angular 1.x?
Sorry, can you come again?
You will explain routing in Angular 1.x or Angular 2?
No, it's Angular routing.
So it is in 1.x or 2 or both are same?
Yeah, there are minor differences there, but we will be covering only the latest version zone.
Okay. Latest version is Angular 2, right? Or 4, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you guys able to hear my voice clearly? Is there any problem with the audio? Hope everyone will be able to listen my voice. Unless fine, thank you. Thank you, Lakshman. Okay, it's time to start. Okay. Hello guys, good evening. My name is Ramesh Kartik. I have got 11 years of experience, which includes software design and development, project management, and a tech speaker. So it's good to see a lot of people, though it is conducted on a weekend. Probably the subject it is Angular, so most of these guys are very much interested to take part in this session. Okay. So the idea of this session is not just creating a knowledge alone, but to connect a different set of people having different views and discussing it. Of course, if you have any questions or clarification that I will not be able to solve in this session, probably you can mail me, or also you can reach me out in Twitter to help you out even after the sessions. And also please, you can also please post your suggestions as well to improve the webinar content, or in case if you have anything. Okay, let's get started. And also that I would like to say a few words about C Corner. Yeah, C Corner, it's really a wonderful platform for developers and IT professionals across the globe. So you know, right, the where you can engage yourself or updating yourself for various technologies, where you can get clarified your technical questions, not just technical questions, also career advice and lots more, right? So it's a one-stop shop where you can enjoy various flavors of different technologies. So I would like to thank C Corner to giving us an opportunity to conduct this webinar. Okay. let's get started. Yes, today agenda, hope you guys know it very well, right? Agenda is routing in Angular. So probably we'll start with what is routing in generic, what exactly the routing will do, why do we want to go with routing, what are the configuration steps you have to consider, you have to remember while configuring the routing. So what are the sample codes? So and also at the end I will be showing you the application walkthrough or a code walkthrough. Meanwhile, also that I will be at the end of the session I will be sharing you the source code link, GitHub link, where you can explore explore the Angular routing even after the session, and they'll come back to me in case of any questions you have. Okay, okay, let's get started. Yes. So, so you just look at this website. So, so you can see a lot of features in a single page, right? A project section displaying the project's information. I just highlighted over there, right? So, visitors and users section displaying users information, and the last you can find the sales information.
Suni.
So, sorry, can you guys, if anyone newly joined, can you please mute yourself? Unless otherwise, if you have anything to say about it. So otherwise, it will be a interruption for everyone, not just for me. Thank you, thank you. Okay. So in this website, just have a look on that. There are a lot of you can see a lot of features in the single page. The project section displaying the project information, visitors and user section displaying the users information, and the last that you can find the sales information. So the lots of information rendering every second on every feature of the page. So you need to notice it, right? So if somebody goes and click the project section over here, so the set of project related information will be populated. So if you click on go and sales, then the sales related information will be populated. So lot of information will be getting over the mouse clicks from a single page alone. Okay. So technically, if you see 2 or 3 modules, Angular modules is there, under each module you can find a lot of components over here. So the projects, visitors, and sales are probably a modules can be called as a modules, and also there are a lot of other components inside that modules as well. So okay, so that's how the website has been built, right? So then how are we going to actually navigate from sales component to project component? How are we going to navigate from visitors to users activity? So let's say that you need some information by clicking any of these options in the project. Then you need some information by clicking any of the options in the visitors, right? So you might have 3 options in each and everything. The visitors, we have to click any of these things or that particular button. So according to the click, according to the component, according to the module, that information has to be rendered, right? So that's how. That's how the handler will understand and populate the right information based on your request. That's what the session is all about. Okay. So the session is all about navigating the different components in a single page and finding the right information according to the content that you are seeing, according to the click that you are placing, according to the request that you are giving. So that's what within the single page, the Angular routing, how good it plays. That's what the session is all about. Okay. So the routing in general, like it's all about the process of finding the router. So based on the content the router receives from the client, he redirects to the right direction. So the router has enough information to redirect it. Hope I just assume this is the router. So typically a router asks the client what is the information or the clue that you have got to get the route, right? So then with that information, the client provides, the router checks his own data sets or collection or database or anything to resolve the destination and help the client to go ahead, right? Finally, the router suggests the client to take the route. So that's what the router plays a role in that. To just gets the relevant information, URL information from the client and redirect to the appropriate page, whatever the according to the request it is. Right? So that's what the routing it is actually. Okay, you just look at this particular diagram. So I hope this will give you a. So of course, the session is all about this particular diagram. Once the user enters the URL in the browser, the router will understand the URL changes. So understand the URL changes in the browser and fetch the right route from the route collection and provides it. Okay. So the router has enough information. Router has enough information about the source, about the destination, and everything, right? Router has the capability to understand the URL changes, understand the URL changes, to immediately and process the output and lots to come from. So you look at, so you with that with this simple image, sorry, with simple diagram, you could easily find out what I'm going to take this session. Like when the user enters, according to the URL, according to the request that user makes, the router will find out the routes. So the router has the capability to understand the routes based on the requests that are coming from the user, find the right route from the collection, and give the right view or components to be loaded into the browser. So that's what the session is all about. Okay, so let's get in going forward. Let's we get into much more detail into that. This is just an introduction to figure out what exactly the thing is actually happening in the router. Okay, okay. So the single page application, right? Okay. So single page, it's a web application. So why I'm typing about single page application? The single page application and routing is much more related with each other. So without to achieve SPA, the single page application uh, routing actually helps us a lot. So that's why I try to give you a glance on the single page application. So it's a web application that fits on a single page with the goal of better user experience. So I just want to give you something about this single page application for the whoever is new to that particular subject, right? So the entire website feature or the content would be accommodated in a single page. So single page is completely related with Angular routing. Okay, without the routing, I will say that we would not be able to see SPA benefit, that is single page application benefit. So once the user enters the URL, only one HTML page will be loaded from the server. Along with the server sends an application engine to the client. So that's what. So this engine who sits at the client side, right? So takes care of loading HTML pages, controls and everything. So it won't reload the pages or control and every time the user clicks. That's the beauty of the single page application. The application engine who sits at the client side will take care of everything. The application engine takes care of 90% of the work runs in the browser alone. Only the rest of the runs in the server to only to get the data. So let's have a look at this single page, look at this application where SPA, that is single page application, and routing both are implemented. I'm just trying to give you a small video of 40 seconds. You can see it out, right? So you can see that I'm just trying to click employees, tasks, critical tasks. You will find out the difference, right? So how beautiful it is, right? So it is not see any page reference or anything, right? So it's a kind of feel that you will be getting that you're working in a desktop application. So there is no such page flickering or page changes or there's no such changes in the rendering. So that is how the single page application, the entire feature, as I already told you, right? The entire website feature or the content would be accommodated in a single page. Within the single page itself, this is just a sample application that I have created for routing single page application. So that's what I'm trying to say here. So the entire sort of feature or content would be accommodated to the single page. So the user can simply navigate to the different set of links, different set of commands that are there, and finding the right information he wants. So here the user experience much better than the traditional web browser, right? So that's what. Let's move on. Okay. So so the routing configuration. So now actually let's see what needs to be configured for implementing routing in Angular. Okay, let's see what are all the steps, what are all the things that we need to think about while configuring routing. So the first thing is, right, we need to think about, we need to remember that router package. So what package needs to be imported to configure routing, and router outlet. If router outlet is something that it marks a place in your page where the router should display the views, and then router link is adding links to the routes. So then wildcard route. So to intercept any invalid URLs that browser sees and directing to the page not found routes or something like that. No. So that's so. And also the default route, by default when your website gets launched, what is the route that you are actually recommending to launch? So what are the redirecting, or what are the last the redirecting routes? Redirecting routes like redirecting to particular page when the path is when the URL path is empty, so redirect it in particular situation. So there are a lot of facilities over there in routing, and also the final and the activated routes. So this is something plays a very important role in angle routing to get all the parameters and paths and everything, right? Those sort of information you can get it only via activated routes. So this is a whole lot of configuration that you have to consider. You have to take it out for configuring the routing using Angular. Okay, let's get into detail no, into that. Guys, can you please mute yourself? Who are joined recently, please mute yourself unless otherwise if you have any questions. Okay. So the first thing is like router package. So it's the first step at the configuration. So all you have to do is like importing router library, which is Angular slash router, right? So this package is completely independent and is dedicated only for routing functionality. Okay, you need not expect any router functionality from Angular core or anything. Okay, this is the only independent package. It's dedicated package for the routing functionalities. So this is the first code to import routing stuff from the Angular router. So these are the syntax that you have to first configuration as a first step that you have to do this particular configuration, source code configuration. Just remember import router module routes. So these are the these two things are really important. With that only entire picture is going to build. So that is what. So once you are build a router package, then you have to go. You can go the next step like this is the router outlet. So you know the right general meaning of outlet. Huh? Hope you know, right, which means a pipe or a hole, right, through which a water may come. Right, that's a general meaning. Outlet you can use to say in your day-to-day life. Right. Likewise, a component or view may come out. So router outlet means as like that in a general meaning, which means a pipe or hole through which water may come. But in the case of router outlet, a component or view may come out. So let me explain you in detail. So if you place this markup in your code, which tells the Angular where the router should display the views. Okay, I just coming ahead. So if you place this markup in your code, which tells the Angular where router should display the views. Okay, router is not just only responsible for showing the route alone. Also, it should load the view or component what you're expecting in the link, right? So you got the point, right? So for example, if I click the link employees, the router should load or render the employees content where the router outlet is mentioned. You got the point, right? So this is the place. This is where the entire content has to be loaded. The router will only check where you have mentioned the router outlet in your application and get the required information based on the click or the URL you send. This information going to be populated the where the router outlet is mentioned in your application. It's very simple. I'm just coming ahead. Okay, so if you place this markup in your code which tells the Angular where router should display the views. Okay, if you click the employees list has to come up, right? Employee list has to come up. So that employee list should come only into the router outlet. You just remember that particular thing. Okay, so hope you guys are clear with that, huh? So far we have seen like what is the package that you need to import, and then what on the second step that you need to mention about router outlet. This is the first two things that you have to consider. Then the third thing, though, again I will be coming back to the same picture with a minor changes into that. So again, right. So if you technically, if you look at this particular feature, so the user actually trying to make one request from the browser. Okay. Say for example, mycompany.com/employees. This is the request that user actually making. So once he makes the request, that particular request first sends to the router. So the Angular router, what he will do is, right, he's just receiving this particular URL and processing it from the route collection. Router has own collection with their own collection. He has so many routes with that. So what is the path it is received? What is the component it should load? As simple as, okay, router has enough information about the source and destination. I already mentioned, right? So it just looks about what is the source. So this is the source. mycompany.com/employees is the source. This is what the user actually need to populate in the browser. Okay. So it just looks upon into the router collection he is managing. So you see the employees. Okay, this is what this guy is asking. Okay, what is that component name? EMP. Okay, EMP is the component name. You just simply router loads the particular EMP component into the router outlet. Hope you guys are clear with that, right? I'm just hope trying to give you a better information. I hope you guys understand it. This is a complete cycle of the router collection. He just actually making the request. So making the request using the URL, whatever the, either in the form of clicking, either in the form of placing in the browser, the router receiving it, and with that URL he has received and placed in on the processing with the help of router collection, and find the right component has to be loaded and sends it to the and loads that particular component to the router outlet. So our job is to make the route collection a perfect manner. So you know, right, which path comes, which component has to be loaded. In case of employees path, you have to mention the employee component. If there is a task component, is sorry, task URL came, you have to load the task component. Likewise, there are so many according to your project nature of project, you can load yourself, right? Okay. Hope you guys are clear with that. I will be moving to the next screen. Okay. So the next one, as usual, so far we have seen like what package we need to import and the router outlet where the router should display the results, right? But how do you navigate to the particular component or view? So how are we going to navigate? The link should take you to the content, right? As soon as you click, there should be a link. Yes, router link will do that job. So the router will add the links or URLs to the router. Hope you understand, right? So so far we have shown where the route should display the result. But how do we navigate to that particular component? That is the primary question, right? That's the primary thing, right? There should be some kind of point the user has to click or play something, a request in the address bar or somewhere, right? So that is something the outer link will do that job. So the router link will add the links or URLs to the router. So links will form the URLs. So the link is something will form the URLs. Once you click, once you click, then only the link will form the URLs. Okay. So the router link has two things in it. Just look at the source code over here. Okay. Just look at the source code. There are two things in it. One, it has the name of the URL. So this is the name of the URL. So we hope you remember that in the recent video we have seen like task and employee something. Oh, so this is what. So I want to get the content when I click the task. So that is why I place the string called task. So what is the route of, for that? So that is the employee task. This was the URL. The first one is the name of the URL, which is task in this example. The next one is URL, which will be embedded with the URL name. Okay. So the employee task URL may get activated as soon as you click that task. So that's it. So URLs may come from browser or click events. Most of the time the URL may come from the clicking events only, but still, it may also come from a browser as well. But what are the case may be? What are the way the URL comes? So this is how we need to configure. So that is anchor tag. You have to mention the router link and the name of the router link. So the name of the router link is here. I'm just again repeating. Once you click that, this particular route will get activated. This request will send to the router collection. So that is probably I will take it to you. So you know, right, how do you navigate? So so far you have understand, right? So this is how you need to navigate. This is how where and all you want to navigate. This is a piece of code that you have to place it on in your project. Okay. And also that you can, router link also supports expressions. You can also give runtime values as well. I didn't put the example over here. Probably the project I will explain you. Assume that if 100 value may come from a different object or something. so that you can place an expression. So the router link also supports expressions. You not only just you mention the static values, and also that you put dynamic values which may come from any source, which may come from a third party library or a DB or any business service or in W service, whatever it may be, right? So the router link normally supports expressions as well. So the parameter may change depending upon the value that it comes. Okay. So hope you guys are following, right? Okay. So next is something the defining roles. So earlier we have seen like do you remember that diagram? No, we have seen like the router maintains a collection to process the routes. The router collection contains the router objects. You remember, right? So that's what again you are going to see that. So here is the so the router collection normally contains the router objects. Each router object contains two parameters. Okay, one is the path and the other one is a component. The path is none other than the URL for the route. Okay, the path is the URL for the route. And the component which is associated with the path. Okay, this is the name of the component. Okay, so we are creating the router object and adds into the router collection. So this is this particular line is a router object. Okay, path. This particular router object accepts two parameters. One is a path, other one is a component. In the path, you have to mention what is the URL that user may give. So that is the employee task in our case. What is the component I should load? When the user sends employee task is component. So what about the next two items? So see again here. So I have parameter as well. So if I got a URL like employee task colon task code is the URL, then what is the component I should load? Okay, I should load the component employee task detail component. So likewise, you have to create the routers. You have to create the route. Okay, for each and every scenario that your application has, create any number of routes into that and add into your router collection. This is what the this is how you need to define the routes. Okay, so this collection will be used by the router in runtime. Okay, when the browser location URL changes, you remember that picture. You just recap the picture. This collection will be used by the router in the runtime.
Yes, sir.
Can you guys mute yourself, please? Thank you. So this collection will be used by the router when the browser location URL changes. Okay, then the router activates an instance of component and displays its views. Okay, so I already told you, right? When this particular URL came, that employee task, the idea is to load this particular component. The employee task is component. Okay, that is something. So look at the source code. This is how we need to define the source codes. So define the routes. Each entry here is a route object and finally gets added into the route collection. Then you have to send the collection to the router module.forRoute. Okay, so it returns a module. It returns a module containing router instances that the router library requires. So the router library normally requires few of the instances has to be available in the runtime. So that you need to, for that we have to pass only the router collection. So this is an EMP task force. So this is something wrong. I just placed the wrong screenshot over here. The EMP task force has to be updated over here. Okay. So I'm sorry for that. So if you do that, if you send this particular thing over there, the router module will be exported. So this is the idea. This is how you need to define the routes. Okay, hope you guys are clear with that, right? So far we have seen like how we have to import the library. What is the router outlet? So outlet is it's not the place where you want to, where the router has to load the result. How you have to define the routes and what is the router links. Hope you guys are following, I believe. Okay, in case of anything you didn't understand, you just feel free to ask any question. So the next step, right? So far we have defined the routes. So what are the possible ways to define routes? Okay, that is what about wildcard or a redirect routes. So what will happen? So if router faces an invalid URL or any other URL that throws an error, what will happen? So how are we going to face that scenario? So the router has to intercept any invalid URL and redirect to the particular component. Okay, you have to and just repeat again. So the router has to intercept any invalid URL and redirect to the particular component. Okay, so look at the first line of code. So which is a wildcard route. Okay, this is something like this is called a wildcard route. Okay, so it consists of a two asterisks and it matches with every URL. Okay, so look at that. So there are two, as usual, two things are there. One is the path and the component. And the first thing is like two asterisks has to be placed and the page not found component. So which means like, so the router will select this route if it can't match a route earlier in the configuration. Okay, you have assume that you have 4 to 5 routes you have been configured. If any of the routes, whatever, if any route that user actually make is not a good one, it's not a right one. If the router thinks it's an invalid one, it's router's job to redirect into that for page not found component or somewhere where it can show the message like this is completely the page is not, the request that you place is not available. So that customized message has to place one, right? So that's what. So the wildcard can navigate to custom, that is what, 404 not found component or page not found component, right? So that is how it is actually useful for that. So next one is redirect routes. So look at the second line of source code. You can find that path match property. The path match property. So the redirect route actually requires a path match property. So to tell the router how to match the URL to the path of the route. Okay, I'm just repeating. So redirect route requires a path match property. That is one in the second thing of thing. To tell the router how to match a URL to the path of the route. Okay, so I'm just when the title the URL sorry, on the entire URL, right? So look at the first one. Okay, take the second one. Huh? When the entire URL matches um, empty or something, so the router has to redirect to the employees list. So that is what. So it is something like to tell the router if this particular URL that like is empty space or something which comes, you have to redirect to the employee list. You have to redirect to somewhere else. That is how you are using. So this is what are all about the wildcard or redirect route. So again repeat, the wildcard is all about like when you find when the router finds anything invalid URL or any invalid request that a user makes, his job is to redirect to somewhere else like page not found or for not found component. So if the router finds any empty spaces in the browser, it's not good to load an empty page, right? It's not good, right? So in that time we have to redirect to employee list or something, some other component that we are mentioning to load that particular thing. It's all about like giving a better user experience. Okay, so next step will be saving the activator route. So the activator, so this is something, one of the important configuration in routing, I already mentioned, right? So let's say you are actually redirecting. Okay, let's say you are redirecting from component A to component B. Okay, to display its view. To display that view, we have to send few parameters, right? We agree, right? With that parameters only, the component B could be able to render its view. You agree? So how are we going to send the parameters from component B? How are we going to receive the parameters in component B? That's what the actual route activated route is all about. So I'm just repeating. Okay, so let's say you are redirecting from component A to component B. Assume it like visitors to projects to display its view. So you are redirecting something. You're actually trying to click on particular value and trying to see a detail. So that is what redirecting from component A to component B. To display that view, we have to send few parameters, right? To ask for a detail, to ask the detail component to make a request to the detail component, we have to send the parameters, right? What is the task ID that I'm looking? What is the employee ID that I'm looking? So with parameters only, the component B could be able to render its view. Okay. So for that, how are we going to send the parameters from component A? How are we going to receive the parameters in component B? That is all about that activator route it is. Okay. So the route path and parameters are available through an injected router service, which is called an activator route. Okay. So the activated route is not then where you can dig for route paths and parameters that is already available through an injected router service, and that injected router will that injected object will be taken care by uh, framework. So we not worry about that particular thing. Okay. So activated route is responsible for providing all this information to render the web. Without that, we would not be able to render it. As a first step, like you look at the first line of the code, we have to import the required tokens from the library. Look at the first line of the code. So the router, activated route, params are the tokens from the Angular router. Okay. So second step asks the Angular to inject services that the component requires. So this is where the injection happens. So this is what the injection happens. So you're just asking Angular, I need activated route and router services to be available over here. So please inject here. So by making this statement alone, I'm not going to detail into injection or providers over here, so that you can take it out. Okay. So the second step is you can ask the Angular to inject the services. In this component, it requires activated route and router to fetch the parameters and path. I already mentioned, right? Activated route is all about like fetch the parameters and path. So please remember that we need to make our injected services private, as these parameters should available only for this particular component. Okay, so you remember, no, you should not mention it for public something, then it will be exposed everywhere. So you have to keep remember that we could make it as a private, as it should be available only for this particular component something. Okay, so that's depend upon the scenario that you are facing. Okay, but most of the cases it should come as a private. So the last step, then how are we going to read the parameters and process it? So just look at this particular code. Okay, look at this particular line of code. Yeah. So from the activated route, we have something called params. Okay. So you can are you able to recollect, right? This params normally comes from the route. So the route comes from the activated route. You understand, right? So this is where the place where you can expect the parameters and everything. So from the activated route, we have something called params, which helps you to fetch the parameter. Okay. So with that only you are going to fetch the parameter. So param has the capability to get the parameter changes or URL changes immediately through activated route service. So the leave switch map now I will explain in the next slide. So you understand very well. So I hope you like. So to do this particular configuration, just feel free. Activated route is all about like reading the parameters or reading the paths of this particular request. Okay. So to process something we need a URL. You agree or not, right? To process something we need the data, right? Where do we go? Where are we going to get this particular data? So that's what activated route will give. So you have to use this injected service which is already available from Angular. So you have to use this particular activated route and router to get all this information. So this that router params, right? So this params will get populated. These params will get populated with the parameters. So that are they sending from the other component something. From the params you are going to retrieve the value. Okay. So assume that you are actually sending on a ID or a task ID or employee ID or something from the other component. So this is how you need to fetch the parameters. This is how you need to approach Angular to get the required parameter. Okay, with that then you can ask your service to get the detail of that. In case in this particular example we are not this particular parameter over here, probably in the next slide I will explain you. So the route path, which is already mentioned over here, right? Route path and parameters are available through an injected router service. Okay, so and also that params are has the capability to, if any URL changes, if you any URL changes you make in the browser, it has the capability to retrieve it immediately. Okay, so it's not that you'll be facing the router, you'll be facing that your component is actually working with the old URL, but you're actually changing the navigation in the URL. But it has to be updated, right? As soon as you update in the browser, immediately these params will get populated. So will get what is it? Will get updated. Will get updated with the new version of value. It's not that you get an old value or something. Okay. All right. Let's move upon. So this were the switch map. And switch map, I just want to give you a few information on that. The role of switch map is all about like the role of switch map is actually cancels the previous in-flight request. You know, right? What is the in-flight request? If the user is actually renavigates with the new ID, okay, I already mentioned, but the process is happening with the service is still retrieving old ID, then switch map will discards the old records and returns the new one. So that's the job of this switch map. Okay. So though the service is processing with the old one, if you're trying to change the new value, switch map uh, by the switch map will discard the old value and returns the new one. So that is the beauty of the switch map. Okay. So if the user is renavigated with something else with the new value, that will get updated. Okay. So switch map has the capability to provide the new one immediately and discard the old one. Once the parameters are fetched through the activated route, it's time to supply the same to the service and get the required data the application needs. Okay, you understand, right? So once the parameters have been read or fetched out from the params, you can contact your own service to get the details of this particular thing. This, the idea of this particular code is get the details of this particular task. Okay, for that I'm supplying the parameter. I'm supplying the parameter or task code to get employee task. This is my service function. Okay, this particular service function will return a task or employee task object. So that I'm going to subscribe it. Okay, that I'm going to subscribe it and keep it with me. So that is the beauty of that. So finally, the subscribe the EMP which is retrieved from the service. So the finally the EMP, the EMP will get populated from the service, from the service. So this is how you need to remember. So you are actually taking the parameter from the URL, so using activated route. Then you are getting it and placing that into the service to get the details of your task and subscribing it. It means subscribing it means this particular object will be available to you to do your own operations. Okay, so that is what the subscription is all about. Okay, hope you guys are clear with that. Let's move on. So we are now done with the configuration. Okay, so before moving to the code walkthrough, let me explain you how the param map and component reusability works in Angular. So you have to know it out this particular thing, how Angular reusing the component when you re-navigate the same component again and again. You understand what I'm saying, right? So you have to understand how Angular reusing the component when you re-navigate the same component again and again. Okay, let me let's have a decision. Here we have two components named component 1 and component 2. Okay, component 1 will provide the list of tasks and component 2 will provide the list of employees list. So in the request 1, so there are three requests will be there. Okay, so in the request 1, the user clicks the task finite 1. Okay, task finite 1 to get the more details of the task. Okay, the first request I'm going to click the finite 1 to get more details of the task. This particular URL will be formed from component 1. So that's where the place where everything will be built, right? So that this particular URL will be formed from this particular URL. Okay, the mycompany.com/task/finite1. So this particular URL will be formed from the component 1 and sends to the component to fetch and render the details of the task finite 1. So this is where the place where the tasks are being listed. Once you click that particular thing, you have to ask the other component get the detail of it. Hope you understand, right? Okay, so that detail will be entered perfectly. But what is that? Then the same user clicking 6.1. So in the earlier case, you finite 1. In this particular case, the user is actually clicking the task 6.1 the second request. Here the user re-navigating the same component to get the details of the 6.1. Okay, both finite 1 and 6.1 and the task are already in the same component. In this case, Angular is not just creating new instance in the DOM. So the Angular will not be creating a new instance in the DOM. DOM is something that document object model. It's just reusing the same component as the only the task ID is different. Okay, you got the point. Until the navigation goes to the other component, the Angular creating until the navigation goes to the other component, Angular reusing the component. So you understand it what I'm saying, right? So these are again I'm repeat. There are two such components, component one and component two. Okay, in the component one, the request one, I will be sending a request. I want the details of this particular class, finite one. Okay. So this request from the component one, the URL will be built and sent to component two. So that component will provide details and it rendered over here. Okay. Assume it like. After that, immediately the user actually trying to get the detail for the same task list with the other ID, that is 601, that lies in the both same components. Okay, so in that case, Angular doesn't is not the Angular is not going to create a separate instance in the DOM. Okay, Angular is going to reuse the same component unless the navigation goes to the other component. If any request comes within the same component, Angular will maintain this particular information or something to reuse it at every time. Okay, that is what I'm just trying to figure. So this is the first two times it goes to same component, then the information will be retained. If it goes in the second other component, then only creating the new instance. So there is no new instance in the DOM for the same ID. So reusing the same component when it renavigates the same component. So hope you understand it perfectly. Anyway, let me show you in the source code. Okay, so yes, we are done with the configuration. Now we are going to see like the project where I have configured. Okay, this is something I let me share you how the components modules are organized in the source code. What I'm going to walk through now. Okay, so root module is something the bootstrap module. Okay, this is the root module. Okay, this application will start from this particular module. Under the root module, you will be having employee task module, and a critical task. Okay, so the employee module will list that employees, and you can see the details of the employee, or that the employee listing will be taken care by the employee list component, and the employee details will be taken care by the employee detail component. So that is how. Then you have your own service under each module, that is the employee service. So this is the guy who is responsible for providing the data and everything to the components for the both of these particular components. Okay, then finally the routing. So the routing also sits along with these guys. Okay, to help you write which component I have to load, what is the path that the user is actually giving, what is the component I should load. Okay, I'm just saying like, so this is the root module. This is how you need to configure it. Anyway, I will show you the configuration. I mean, show you the source code. Before that, let me give you a clear picture into that. So this is how the root module. This is the bootstrap module will be given to the Angular. This is that will get triggered first and will be loaded. Okay. Under the root module, you will be having three different modules. Okay. This is the feature modules. This is the Angular module. Okay. This is the feature modules. Feature module is something which we created for our own purpose. So I have created something called employee module. So employee module has two components. The two components, the employee list, right? The employee list will only list the employees. So employee detail, if I click on employee, it will give the details of the employee. Okay, for that I have created two components. For that I need some service, right? Service I really needed to get any such data, any details of particular employee. So for that the employee service will be there. Of course, routing is really required. That's what the session is all about. To route out, right, based on the information that user sends, based on the URL that user sends from the browser or click, the routing who sits in the this particular module will intercept the request and find out which component has to be loaded and it loaded. So this is how the project it is. Okay. Probably, yeah, again, this is the execution flow. Probably I will come back to you this particular thing after I show the source code. Otherwise, it will be okay. So this is the entire project, the entire application where I have created for Angular this single page application. Okay. So there are three modules. Okay. I have created 4 modules. You don't need to remember all those things for this particular application. So let me run this particular application before showing the source code. Probably you will get an idea what is that we are actually talking about. Okay. So if I click the employees, it should list the employee. Okay. So if I am clicking the Ramesh Kartik, I should get the detail of, for this particular sample. I am not doing much detail on them. Only the M code and employee name will be there. If they are going to save this particular thing, you can edit as well. Okay. You can go back. So other data, if you want to edit, I mean, you want to know the detail, you can go ahead. So it's kind of a single page. I already shown the video of this particular thing, right? If you want to list out the task, then you can go and list the task. If you want to do the critical task, you can go and see the critical task. So you would not, you would not feel like that you are actually working in a web application. Okay, so it's kind of a desktop application feel that you will be getting. So since it's a single page application, so since the single page application is completely configured with the help of Angular routing, so this is where the Angular routing helps up. If I click that one, right, the routing will understand. Okay, this guy has, this user actually requesting user employee related information. Okay, we are in the position to, we are now the responsible to send out the, get the relevant employees details from the service and populate it out. So if I click the task, then router will understand. Okay, this user is really required task to be listed. Fine, we'll go with the router understands the request, that is request is not then that the employee task. Okay, process that one and loads the appropriate component. Before loading the component, ask the service what are the tasks which are available. Okay, these are all the tasks. Okay, let's populate over here. Okay, if I'm going to see some details of this particular employee. Okay, if I click that one, then router understand. Okay, this is something which I it's a parameter one I have to process with the parameter. So router understand that there's a parameter is came. So with that parameter, it sends to the service and get the relevant information about this particular employee and load this particular component. Okay, hope you guys understand, right? So this is what the application is. This is what all about single page application with the help of routing. We have designed it. Okay, okay. Let's see the source code. So the first thing you need to, I already mentioned, like you hope you remember in the message and that and the object hierarchy I have mentioned, right? The first thing you have to mention about the router outlet. That's what I have mentioned, right? You have to use the router link and the router outlet. So first you have to give the configure the router link. So the router link is something, if any, now what is the router link you want to configure, that is employees, fine, fine with that. Then what is the name of the router? I mean, what is the name of the subject, or what is the name of the content? So you see, right, what the employee task and critical task, and those things are actually coming from this particular page alone, this particular component alone. The app component is the one, it's a bootstrap component. Okay, this is what the, it is configured in the module library. Hope you know the basics of Angular. So this is where the bootstrap component I have updated. So as soon as the application gets executed, the bootstrap will look into that app component and will load the app component. Okay, as soon as the app component will load, okay, you can find what are the router links which is available. Okay, these are all the router links. Okay, employees, task, and critical task. Then what is that? Then what is the link which is associated for each one? Okay, let me probably I run this application. That time will be able to give me 5 more minutes. I'm taking a bit extra time. Okay. So this is what the employees task and critical task. So these thing I'm going to creating a link. This is the link. These are the link. If I click this particular thing, this, sorry. If I'm clicking this particular employees, this link will be sent to the router. Okay, so what is the router? So probably I will give you what is the routing is all about. So this is the first step that you need to consider. So remember that you have to mention the router outlet under the router links. So under the router outlet, this is where the place you need to render all your, so all your data, whatever the content that you will be getting. So for example, if I click the employees, you will be getting the list of employees, right? this result has to be loaded over here. So this is a marketplace. It's a marketplace so that Angular understands, okay, whatever the result, whatever the view has to be loaded. So under which only we have to load this. Okay, this is the first step. Then after that we have to. So this is what the app component. Then this you remember that I have told you like this is the root module. This is the root module. Okay, in this root module I have configured everything. In this root module you can find like employee module, employee task module, so in the routing module and everything I'm actually creating. I mean I'm actually registering over here. So the mod I'm just if you want I'm probably okay. So this is the route module. Okay. So the route module is something everything will be who sits in the top. So he is the one actually once the application gets activated, this is the one will get triggered. Okay. So after that it's lost into that, then app component will get loaded. So the first step it will look into that what are the links that user actually clicked. So if user clicked, then he will check their own routing. So the routing, this is the main routing. Okay, it will check where is the any slash employee task route is there. No, it doesn't find any routing. It doesn't find any path related to that. Okay, then we move into something like other routes, other routing which there is a other module that where routing is. So routing is there for not only in root module. Every module has a routing module. The routing library is there. In every module, routing library is there. If the route module is able to figure out the path for this particular thing, then we will automatically check the child modules. What are the modules? The child modules. So in that child module, check that where the path has been configured. In our case, like I have already registered, like this is my employee module. So this is my employee module. This is the route module. Okay. The route module I have registered. This is the employee module. This is the task module. This is the other task module. Likewise, I have registered all those things. Then as soon as if the main module not able to resolve that route path, it will get into the employee module. So the employee module I have registered everything. So this is where the entire picture comes back. So the employee module, I have already told you, right? The employee module we have to register the components, service, and routing, right? So likewise, I'm actually creating. I have created components. This is what the two components. One component is employee list component. This is something which is really useful for listing the employees. This is something useful for getting the details of the employees. This is what getting the details of the serve particular employee or something. That it's all about service, right? Okay. So then finally the routing module. Now only we are actually coming to the routing module. This is other routing module which is which is managed for each and every every module. Okay. So here you can find that this is what we have configured. You remember, right? So this is what the routes we have. I'm just configured. If any path that comes with the employees, we have to load this particular component. If any path that comes with the employees less M4, please load this particular component. This is how I actually configured the routing for the employees. Okay, and then finally I registered in this particular router module and returned that router module. So this is a complete setup. Once you configure that routing module, then you have to come back to the employee module. Okay, sorry, not the employee module, the employee list module. Okay, so now we have seen like and also that you have to remember that what are the modules, what are the classes that you want. In this class I'm getting employee objects. So employee objects will be created, employee services will be created for that. So this is something which will return the list of employees. This is where the place the entire contents will be provided to the components. Okay. So I already told you, right, that the employee list component will take care of only the employee listing things. So this component is only responsible for listing the employees. Okay. So this particular component, employee detail component, right, will be responsible for giving the details of this particular thing. Okay. Okay. So the employee list we can find no, in which we go on that. So once the router get suddenly, I already told you, right, the first request comes to the module library, then app component, and the app component will read that, will check the routing in the main routing. If the path is not matched, then we will redirect to the module routing. So this employee routing will get matched. Okay, this is employees. This is what the employees, right? You remember? So this was the app component which I mentioned. So slash employees. So slash employees gets matched with the employee routing component. So what is the component I should load? So the router got the information. Okay, employee list component is the component I should load. I should load means router should load. So then automatically creates an instance for this particular employee list component. Wait, yeah, employee list component. This is what the constructor it is. So it will come down here and create an instance for that and render this particular page. Render the page with the help of templates. Okay, the template. I hope you guys have a basic knowledge about the Angular. So I'm not able to cover each and everything like a template and how you need to traverse the data and everything. Probably you can check my other articles or anything. Yeah, anyway, I will be sharing the source code, or probably you can check it out later. So this is where the place where you have to. This is where the place where you have to traverse all the employees and listing over. So this listing happens only here. Okay, this employee list component, this template only take care of everything. Okay, I'm again repeat, once the router path gets matched, it's automatically creating the instance of the employee list component. This is where the place instance will get created. So you remember, right? The activity route service and everything will be injected from the framework itself. So this is where the place where the parameters will be fetched. Okay, once you get that one, you remember, right? That employee of employees. So this is where the entire traverse will be happening. So where you can see, where you can get all the employee related information will be iterating. Okay, so in that only you can get all the information. So once in case if you want to select something, right? I'm just saying, if I click this particular thing, go to this particular function on select. Okay, so this particular function will get triggered. So this is something like this where the place I'm just sending the message from one component to other component. From the list component to detail component, I'm requesting this is the employee code, I need some details. So it's actually going into the detail component. So details component again, it will come down here as usual. It will come down and create an instance of that, and we'll get the go to employees. This is what the slash employee. So slash employee, this is where the place that that particular thing will come and list out all the information over here. Okay, so yeah, this is the employee detail. So the entire employee detail things will happen only on the employee detail component. Okay, probably you can go walk through the code once again. Probably the first time you might be able to understand everything. So I have covered everything on that. So this is how actually you have to look for your parameters and get the contact services to get the required data and everything. So this thing you can check out this particular, you can think about that. Now you can visualize your how I have organized. So this particular module has this particular component, services and routing. Okay, so say as like that you can create as many as components you want according to your project requirements. Okay, this is how it is. Then finally one thing I want to communicate you is like employee service I already mentioned. No, this is how you need to. I'm just creating a local collection and sending out. So whenever is get employees is asking, I'm just returning the entire collection. Whenever specific request comes for some particular employee, I'm just returning only specific employee content. So those details will be retrieved by this particular function, like go to employees or ng on init something. So these particular events I have handled everything. So probably you can walk through this particular code. Unfortunately, I could not able to walk through each and every line of code. So probably it's a larger project. Of course, you can come back to me in case of any clarifications or anything you want to have. So these are, so now you think about like in the app, from the app component. I'm just saying that from the app component, this is where you have mentioned the router links and everything, right? So this is how the click happens. The employees, that click happens in the app component and is sent to the main routing first. The main routing, if that particular URL is matching, so you just check the main routing. If anything is matches slash employees, no, right? So yes, it's not matched. Then it's sent to the module routing. Module routing is something like it sits under the employee. Okay, because how come no it the we have to send out the employee module because we already registered the module library. Then it will check this particular collection. Sorry, what is that? Check this particular routing module and find out where it is matching. Yeah, it's matching. Slash employee is matching. Okay, route is matched. Then find out which component we have to load. This is the employee list component. Then Angular creates the component instance of employee list component. Okay, the employee instance component instance will be created. Then that fetches the data from the service to get any particular record details or something. You can fetch from your service and loads the component. Then loads the employee list component into this particular place where you have mentioned. So this function is already mentioned in the router app component. So this is the entire execution flow. Okay. So request goes and main routing checks. If matches, not a problem. If not matches, then go to module routing. If matches, then creating instance of this particular component, gets the data from the service, loads the component, and sends the component into that particular the entire routing happens. This is what the actually a single page application. Okay, that's all. I'm done with that. If you have any such questions, please raise here. I couldn't able to see lots of chats or something. So let me open one by one. Is it possible to have route collection defined static file like JSON so that can be used? Yeah, yeah, you can have it in anywhere else. So that's not an issue, Bhushan. The route info will be conceived like any other config. Yeah, it can be done. How it is how it is going to be provided as input, how it is going to be provided to the input route modules. Yeah, that's what we have seen, right? Or we have to give that input through the params value itself, that slash route we are mentioning, right? And that is the place you have to mention your parameter as well. Okay. Can you pass yeah, you can pass multiple parameters as well. Can you display employee details on the same page? Yeah, you can same page or the same page. You see it, right? Okay. Yeah, I will be sharing his source code. This is what the probably with me. Hold on. I will give you. So this is where you can get the complete set of source code. Yes, guys, I'm done actually. If you have anything, we can ask. Otherwise, we can wind up. So, so in that case, if you have anything, you can please mail to me. And thank you everyone for participating in this session. Okay. Thank you, guys, and see you. Bye. Thanks, Anka. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please feel free to provide your suggestions so that it will it will help you to improvise the content. Thank you. Thanks for participating.